Please help me welcome Patrick. Hi, Patrick.
Thank you. There we go. Gonna need that.
Yep.
So thank you guys so much for letting me come in. As I mentioned, my name is Patrick Braswell, and I'm the CEO of Transcend, and it is our core belief that the workplace should reflect company culture and inspire growth. Should reflect the company culture and inspire growth, and that's why we're a commercial real estate firm, and that's why today I'm going to go with you guys, take you on a little journey as to how workplace can inspire company culture, how it can increase revenue, and more importantly, how it can actually engage your workers. I think there's a big problem in the U.S. with engaging employees, with making them feel important, and again, it's our core belief that we can do that through office space and through the workplace itself. So again, I'm going to take you guys through a little journey. What I have laid out for us is some provocative stats that I wanted to share with you guys before we kind of go dive into the meat of this presentation. So we'll do that real quick. 29% of employees are actively disengaged at work. 29%. Think about that. When they come into the office, they don't care about the company, they don't care about productivity, they simply are just there being. 91% of employees 34 years and younger will leave their job within 3 years. 91%, think about that. That's almost 100. So you get a millennial, you hire them, you train them, and by the time they just get going and are productive, they are going to leave your company and go to a competitor or go somewhere else. Think about the lost dollars in training that is. Think about the lost productivity that comes with. 91%. Only 16% of workers in the U.S. are fully engaged. That's almost just 1 in 10. So if you have 20 people in there, that's pretty much 3 employees at your company that are fully engaged and ready to be great workers, and that usually are the founders of the company if you're a small company. 16% of workers are fully engaged. That means they come in the office every day, they're ready to work, they're ready to be inspired, and they're ready to drive your company forward. 11 billion. 11 billion is lost every year due to employee turnover. So again, we go back to what we talked about earlier. 91% of employees that are 34 years and younger will leave. This attributes to the 11 billion that's lost every year due to employee turnover. Think about that. That is an astounding number. This is one of my favorites. Companies with engaged employees will outperform their competition by 147% earnings per share. So we're talking about public companies here, but I think you get the picture. If you can somehow engage your employees with what they're doing every day, you will outperform your competition. There is no doubt about it. It will happen, and this is the statistics to prove it. So it kind of goes with what the question is. How do you engage them? And again, we'll talk about it a little bit further, but the workplace, the office space, is a great way to keep your employees engaged. Raise their hand if they've seen this. Culture eats strategy for breakfast. Any great entrepreneur will tell you this. Transcend's my 3rd company, and I can, without a doubt, tell you that culture every day will outperform strategy. Give me a company with great culture, and we'll figure out the strategy to make it work. We're starting to get to why we really care about office space. 90,000 hours are spent in a lifetime at work. That's more than at your home. That's more than doing your favorite hobby. You will spend the majority of your life at work. And for most of us, that means the majority of our life is spent in their office space. Think about the tool that you can use that can engage your employees, make them happy, make them satisfied, grow your business, increase revenue. 90,000 hours. So, Simon Sinek, why is he up here? He's a great speaker. We've probably all seen him in TED, and he truly talks about start with the why. So I'm going to share with you real quick why Transcend. What did we start with when we started with the why? And it comes back to we believe that the workplace should reflect company culture and inspire growth. Those stats I just shared with you are our why. 91% will leave within 3 years. 16% are fully engaged. 90,000 hours are spent at the workplace. 11 billion is lost in unproductive workers and them leaving in the turnover. Those are shocking stats that no one seems to care about and truly reflect on. And again, it's our belief that the office space is a great way and a great tool to combat that. So I'm going to share with you some of the proverbial wisdom that's out there for office space right now and what we have actually seen over the last year and truly studying the data with our own clients. But all we hear about now is we got to engage the millennials. We got to engage the millennials. It's all about the millennials. How do we get them to love work? Raise your hand in here if you're a millennial. So about half the room. So y'all are about half the workforce now, and that number is growing. Everyone is telling companies, especially big corporations, to engage millennials, you have to have open office space. It's an open environment. It's got to be cool. It's got to look something like this. A lot of natural light, a lot of glass. You got to have the cool community areas to sit down, to share a cup of coffee, to hang out, to be cool. These are things that millennials want. Generation X, baby boomers just have to live with. The data that we have seen tells us a different story, but this is what commercial real estate brokers, architects, whomever that deals with office space is telling us that we have to have. You got to have the whiteboards. You got to have the chalkboard. You got to have these things to truly inspire ideas. And these things aren't bad. I love this stuff. You should see our Transcend office. We have whiteboards all over the place. But what I'm telling you is I know that people are missing the boat when it comes to how to truly take an office space, the work environment, to inspire the company culture. So what have we seen? And we're kind of diving into this. So part of our strategy when we get hired by a corporation to go help find office space is we want to understand the data behind the wants and needs of that office space. So we sent out a survey. We've done over 1,000 over the last year. And some of the main key points to take away is that it's not about generation when it comes to your office space. It is not about generation. You know, we have all these different generations. We've got baby boomers. Do we have any baby boomers in here? Just one? Two, maybe? So they'll tell us that baby boomers are like madmen. Everyone's have these private offices. The peons are inside in these little cubes, and that's just the way that it is. They're resistant to change. They're loyal. They're workaholics. And their office space better reflect that. How many Generation Xers are there? Raise your hand. I'm one too. So for us, they feel like we're kind of a combination. We can figure out what the millennials want. We can figure out what the baby boomers want, and we're in the middle. We're skeptical. We're independent. We have a work-life balance. That's what we want. A lot of times we've seen that the Generation Xers can move in between the different types of work environments. But again, it's not about that, and I'll get to that in 1 second. And then millennials. We already saw how many we have here. You're lazy. You're impatient. You demand respect immediately even though you haven't earned it. These are the things that millennials talk about. But you know what? Every company we talk to has one question, and that is, how do we engage the millennials? How do we get them to work harder? So these are some of the things that we have seen and talk about when we talk to architects, but then I'm going to dive back into our data again. The data that we've seen over the 1,000 surveys talks about making sure that you're not just thinking about generations, but that you are truly lining up work function over generation. It doesn't really matter what generation you are, it's more about your work function. If you want to truly have office space, it's going to inspire culture and grow it and grow your revenue. So what do I mean by that? Take a coder, for instance. A coder can be a baby boomer, a Generation X, or a millennial. But given their job function, they do want to sit in a bench seating in a row, dark lights, because it's quiet. They're all coding. They got their headphones on. But the function of their job is to sit there and say, okay, I've got an issue with this line of code. How do I fix it? They want to be able to just turn their screen over, let the guy sitting next to him or girl sitting next to him look at that code and fix it. So they want the community, they want the open environment, but they've got their headphones on, so it's still quiet. And it doesn't matter. We've seen the research, over 1,000 surveys over the last year, that it does not matter if they're a Generation X or they're a millennial. It's about the work. It's about the job function. Take a sales rep, for example. Baby boomer, Generation X, millennial. They're on the phone all the time. So if you took a millennial, put them into a sales role, and then gave them a bench to sit at in a big open environment, they're going to be miserable. They can't make the calls. They cannot concentrate. They can't get their job done. They may like the bench seating, but you got to provide them things like a phone booth or a private office or a private area for them to go make the calls. That's what I'm talking about. Accounting, they want privacy. Think about these things. So when you are thinking about company culture, you're thinking about the work environment, it really, really dives into job function more than generation. So don't believe the hype when they say millennials want open environment and cool environment. They are more concerned about their job function and matching that up than they are with a cool environment. Same with Generation X and same with the baby boomers. So in closing, I'm just going to leave it to you, and I've said it a lot, and I'll say it one more time. Job function is more important than generation. To truly inspire company culture and help it grow, you've got to design office space that aligns with your employees' job function. And that's it. Thank you.
So do we have questions for Patrick? Yes. Speak up really loud. Oh, there's a mic.
That came up in discussion with somebody that came into our department. I'm a marketing research analyst for the Air Force. And somebody said, don't you guys collaborate? Don't you need a more open workspace? And I said, well, I'm analyzing. So, I mean, I don't really want an open workspace because I want to be kind of secluded. Have you found out anything from marketing research specialists or analysts or whatever, what type of environment really works best for them?
To your point, they would rather be secluded so they can keep their heads down and do what they want to do. What we find is that companies are having to put more common areas there. You still have to have the private areas for you to do your job function. For me as a salesman, I want to go do my job function in a private area, but I do, from time to time, want to step out, go to a collaborative room, and then get together and do it. But it needs to be on my time. I mean, for me as a salesman to sit there and think I'm going to have this amazing bump-in collaboration on a sales call sitting next to people that are making calls too is ridiculous. And same with your environment, I'm sure, as well.
Other questions? So I have a question. Wait, Beata has a question.
Hi there. So that would then stand the same for introverts and extroverts, I suppose, as long as you have the collaborative environment, because introverts just love being put on the spot.
Yes, and introverts generally tend to want to gravitate towards positions that help you, with that, or in the extroverts the same way. But yes, our studies dive into that as well. And I think this whole concept of open office space is the way to go is just flat out wrong, because there's a lot of job functions that cannot perform properly in the open environment. What you need to do is have the privacy for those job functions that need it, but then the collaborative spaces we talked about earlier for people to congregate and talk about things when they want to, or more small conference rooms. I mean, there's a whole host of things you can do, but that's generally what we've seen in our research.
As an introvert, I'm excited to hear someone in office space work say not everybody collaborates at their best when everybody else is in the same space. What do you think of the trend that was probably moving over the last 10 years of having fewer spaces to work than people who are employed?
The hoteling phenomenon. Mm-hmm. It can work in different types of environments. I think one environment is consulting, when you have a lot of consultants that are out on the road, so that you're not going to have that designated area for yourself. But what we have found is that people sometimes tend to lose a sense of self when they don't have a home base to go and sit down. One quick story, a client of ours, CERT Marketing, there are 30 employees, and they have benching because they're all marketing and their heads are down and they're doing their work and they're not on the phone that much. And Binge, the CEO, has no assigned seats. Sit wherever you want, doesn't matter. I talked to them 6 months after they moved in. Every single person goes to the exact same seat every day. We're creatures of habit. So for a company to say, well, we're going to go to the hoteling model, I just don't feel like it works.
I've seen that often not work. Any other questions for Patrick? Well, thank you very much for sharing this with us. I think it's a really interesting view of human behavior, and we're always interested to learn more about human behavior. Thanks, everybody.